So if you're pretty good on the piano, chances are there might be some people that might need your help, and you might end up teaching piano, maybe on the side, gig or something like that. But if you are teaching piano, these are 4 items that I think are very useful to use in your practice of teaching. So we're gonna go over these 4 items and we're gonna talk about it. This is Pat's Piano Playing, and today we're gonna be talking about 4 tools to use when teaching piano. Now, some of these items are very obvious. You might see them in classrooms from teachers and whatnot. Some items here are not obvious because I have never encountered an instructor use these items. So let's go down the list. 1. The first item that you want to use when you're teaching piano or even music itself would be, and this one's pretty obvious, but I have to mention it because some teachers don't use them at all, and that's going to be flashcards. Flashcards are my go-to to teach and memorize. We'll have students memorize concepts. So I work at a music store where I have other instructors teaching instruments, and I'm the only one using flashcards. Now, flashcards are very useful because it reinforces the concepts that you're teaching, and it helps students remember all these complicated concepts that you're going through them with. And another thing too, a little side note actually, if you've been teaching for a while, let me know in the comments if this is in your case as well. Kids love flashcards. Kids have a pretty fast reaction time, and they love it when they get all these concepts right, like the key signatures or like the key letters or the note values, or a lot of young students, they love flashcards. And if you're teaching adult students, you will come to realize, at least for my case, let me know in the comment if it's that in your case or not. Adults have a hard time with flashcards, and I think it's because, well, it could be for all kinds of reasons, but I'm thinking it's for 2 reasons. One, because adults might have a slower reaction time, and because whenever they get wrong answers on the flashcards, they just feel like they ought to know all these concepts because they're adults. Nevertheless, flashcards, you gotta use them. Teach with flashcards. This brand right here with the little mouse and the little teddy bear, these are from I think the brand is called Music for Little Mozarts or something. I've been using these flashcards since 2019, and they're super old. And I like them because they're big. There's all kinds of flashcards, so go to Amazon, go over some flashcards they might need and use them all the time. Reinforce the students with the same concepts so they can memorize them very well. So item number 1, flashcards. This one's pretty obvious. Item number 2 is, well, it has to do with the metronome, but I'm not going to say the metronome itself as an item to use because what I'm about to mention kind of relates to the metronome. Now, before I have my students actually use the metronome, what I've always been using, and I've been doing this for many years, is drumsticks. Drumsticks are very useful because when you're teaching students that have no experience with using the metronome, I don't think it's a good idea to introduce them with the metronome very early, because the metronome, if you don't know how to use the metronome, chances are every time you click on the metronome, it's always going to be defaulted to 120 beats per minute, 4/4, and chances are that the beats are going to be a little bit faster, and you're always going to have that bell beat rotating every 3 beats, which kind of makes it annoying for anyone that does not know how to use or modify the metronome. So for that reason, I've always used drumsticks. Now, the thing about drumsticks is that I have full control of my students' pace, meaning that if a student doesn't have a pace to begin with, a rhythmic flow, you can at least get them used to hearing out a beat as they play the keys. It might sound something like this if they're inconsistent. But as you start teaching them more about rhythm values, note values, and the rhythmic flow that goes within the music, you start having them adapt their playing with a sense of a metric beat that can measure out how fast and how slow to go for every note value that they encounter on the sheet music. And another thing too is that I use tapes. I put tapes on my drumsticks to make a different sound and to signal for them a different rhythmic flow or a different time signature. For example, I play the end of the sticks here to signal the bell beat, and then I use the bottom taped part of the stick to signal out the rest of the beats. So if I was to play a time signature, say 3/4, it would sound like this. If a student has a hard time with speed, then especially in a part where they're still struggling, yeah, I have full control of their speed while maintaining the correct rhythm flow in terms of their note values in the sheet music. So it's very useful to use drumsticks rather than a metronome. A metronome, you can introduce it way later on once they have an adaptive way of playing with the beats being heard as they play. So I recommend, if you're teaching piano and you're helping somebody with rhythmic values, use drumsticks rather than a metronome. The only thing about the drumsticks is that you have to have a very good sense of rhythm. You have to have a very consistent way of applying the beat. This takes a lot of training, so you might, if you're like a good piano player, you might just have a good rhythm, after all. But in any case, I would still use them. Use drumsticks and then use the metronome. Item 2, drumsticks. By the way, leave a comment if you ever encounter a piano teacher that uses drumsticks. I'd like to know, because I've been through a lot of classes, a lot of teachers, and I've never seen anybody use like the drumsticks, or usually they clap their hands or something, but I don't like clapping the hands. And truth be told, in the very beginning, I wasn't using drumsticks. I was actually using markers. So I started using drumsticks way later on. So once my markers were cracking and breaking, I started using drumsticks, and it's what I use up to this day. In fact, these drumsticks are super old, and I'm not intending of replacing them, because I've been using them for a long time and I like them. The third item, now this one, the next two items are going to be the most unobvious ones. I've never seen any instructor use these two items, but let's go through the first one. And I've been through college, I've been through a lot of other musicians, I've been through a lot of other instructors, and I've never seen anyone use this item, and I do not know why. We don't even sell this item here in my store, where it's a music store. Third item will be book clips. Now, a book clip is so important. I get so flustered when I don't see anybody use these things. They're so cheap. You can find them on Amazon. And what does these do actually? Like, what's the point of this? So chances are you're gonna be playing music off of a book. And when you buy new books, or you're using a book, it's gonna be hard to maintain it open. And I've seen students use like little paper clips in order to maintain their book open as such. But using a book clip makes it all that better. So you're gonna clip it on like this, and then you're gonna flip it over like that, and clip it on like this, and then it remains open entirely. So you can find these very cheap. They're like $5-10, depending how high quality they are, on Amazon. And let's say that you're playing like a multiple piece page. So I get asked about this. So if you have like a 2-page song, you just unhook the page you're gonna be turning, and the book still remains open, and then the book page will be it will be a little loose, but it'll be flippable, so you can flip it afterwards. And well, you have to modify it from there. But you know what I do with this? Every time I have a new student and I work with them for a little while, and I finally am ready to have them buy like an actual song book or course book, I actually buy these ones in bulk, and I give them away as presents for their hard work, and also because it's like a little surprise. because at the same time, since nobody really uses this, it's very useful to apply this when you're teaching music, or also like a gift. Like if you're a teacher and you want to give a gift to a student for being awesome, buy them a book clip. Or if you are, a student and your instructor is not providing anything like this, buy this, and they're very cheap, very useful. No reason to not have one of these book clips. Third item. Now, the last item is gonna be my very best go-to, and this one is extremely unheard of, completely underrated, completely oblivious to many instructors, many piano players, and many students, all that. And that will be, drum roll. What is this? What is this right now? What do you see? What is this? This is a laser pointer. Yes, a laser pointer. Now, a laser pointer, well, I started using a laser pointer in the very beginning because I don't know what it was. I just thought it was obvious. But, I started teaching music when I was in college. And when I was in college, my teachers didn't have a laser pointer. Nobody had a laser pointer. In fact, you cannot even find a good laser pointer unless you're going to a pet store and you strictly go to the cat section, because these are actually hard to find nowadays. Why is that? I don't really know. I don't know why that's the case. And I have gone through Amazon, but on Amazon, I think if I remember correctly, they just have too much of fancy ones that are expensive. I mean, you can buy them, I guess, but they're just so inconvenient because they're gonna sell you like, I don't know if it's different now. Maybe leave a comment, let me know what you find in Amazon. But on Amazon, I did come across many laser pointers that are just too fancy for office usage. Now, I've never seen anybody use a laser pointer, not even in college. I'm surprised. But your best chances of getting a laser pointer is to go to the pet store and go to the cat section, and then you'll find a good variety there. Now, laser pointers are so important because you want to pinpoint the detailed notes that your student is playing. And if you're really good at controlling the laser pointer flow, you can actually demonstrate a rhythmic, readable flow of the sheet music of the exact notes your students are working with. You can also make little loops to guide the students' vision. You can train the students kind of like cognitive direction to where they're looking at if you're using this very correctly. And it's not easy actually, because if you point at anything, it's kind of hard to have a steady hand. But you can rest your hand on your knee, and then you can kind of like guide the student's vision. Because when you read well, it's because you know where to pinpoint your vision to. We have a very limited focus, attention on where we're actually looking at. There's a whole lot of a lot of research on how we tend to ignore all of our surroundings and peripheral visions and only see what we're focused on. So if you can train your students using a laser pointer and pointing them at the right direction, this is key to use. I absolutely recommend you use a laser pointer. Get it? Go to the pet store, go to the cat section, and buy yourself a little laser pointer. Well, that was it for this video. I have to go, but leave a comment. Let me know what items I missed, what items you use, or if you've encountered an instructor that uses one of these items, because I would like to know. And once again, leave a comment, share, subscribe, like, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you later.